Grace and peace to you, friends and members of Skyland United Methodist Church. I've come to you with this video to update you on three matters: the new CDC guidelines, our plans for worship here at Skyland, and our plans for the youth program. First, the CDC guidelines. As I'm sure many of you know, the CDC put out new guidelines this week that essentially say that vaccinated people would no longer need to wear face masks on our campus anymore. I'm excited about this news, both personally and for the church. Having said that, all through the pandemic, we have been deliberate in our decision making. I don't believe we have either rushed or tarried in addressing matters of safety, and now is no different. Your church leadership and I will be discussing this week about the CDC's new guidelines, our state and local guidelines, and any guidance from the Western North Carolina Annual Conference. The worship service for May 16th will be held by all the standards we currently have in place, while we have time to look at all of the variables involved in holding worship. We will let you know about all our decisions as widely and as soon as possible, so stay tuned. Now for a word about worship in the more general sense. I've spoken with a couple of folks firsthand and heard more feedback secondhand from people asking about our worship plans. So I'm glad to share with you some of my current thinking on the matter. First, let me say thank you to all of you who have remained engaged with Skyland Church through worship, either online or in person. It's been more than a little weird, but it helps to have others go through the weirdness with you. So thank you. As of the taping of this announcement, we have had a grand total of 3 indoor worship services, not including Easter. Yay! In other words, we are still new at this. Prior to our ability to hold indoor services, we have been live streaming with only the bare minimum number of people necessary so that we could be safe, especially since singing was deemed a high-risk activity. There were Sundays when we only had 3 people together here in the sanctuary for worship. During this time, we were handling not just technical variables, but personal variables as well. Different folks had different levels of comfort for their own safety, and that further limited what we were able to do, even in a taped worship service. All that is to say, each week's worship has been a delicate matter to put together and present to you. One question I've heard is, when are we going to hold contemporary worship again? I hear you. My answer to that question right now is that genre has not been one of our primary concerns. Our planning has not been about whether we can offer a traditional or a contemporary service. Thus far, all we have been asking ourselves is, how will we safely provide a worship service given the cards that we're holding that particular week? Thus far, we have humbly submitted our best. We have intentionally chosen an odd time for our one worship service so that it wouldn't be perceived as favoring one previously held service time or another. By the end of May, we will have experienced a variety of musical instrumentation and musical styles, all in our one service, all in our first month of being in person. In the wake of Lance's departure, I want to say a special thank you to Linda for coordinating this variety of music for worship, especially since congregational singing is still a decision yet to be made. Having said all that, what I want to convey is that we are months away, not weeks, from clearly discerning what our next semi-permanent church-wide worship schedule will be. during this interim period, we will experiment with several things under a changing set of constraints. Our discernment will come from our prayer and our study, from the work of the worship committee, from the staff parish relation committee's decisions about staff structure, from continuing and unfolding news about COVID, and from your feedback. We are living in such a time as the Israelites did when they worshiped in the wilderness with a portable tent. The stone temple is off in the distance yet, but for now we continue this adventure with God. One of the big variables in worship planning is how we will follow the good work that Lance did with us. The same is true for the youth program. And so now I want to update you on what we're doing with the youth program. We are considering the current staff structure. Lance was essentially hired for 2 part-time positions, and the Staff Parish Relations Committee is studying whether that structure suits our current needs or if a new division of labor would serve us best. We are studying a book together. I'm leading a group of right now 18 youth parents, volunteers, and church leaders who are reading a book about youth ministry and discussing it together with me. Let me know if you would like to be a part of that study. Lastly, we're forming an interim youth council, which will organize youth events for the summer and begin to lay the groundwork for when a new hire is made. So those are my 3 updates. All that said, I would be glad to hear from you. 704-877-5973. I'll repeat that if you want to write it down. That's my cell phone number, and I want to know what your experience has been and what you hope for. Again, my number is 704-877-5973. If you haven't yet been a part of in-person worship for non-medical reasons, let me encourage you to come. Come and be a part of our experiment. Come and see people in person again. After all, the church is the people. God bless you and keep you, and I hope to see you soon.